A few weeks after the Rakolta incident began, when things as far as I was concerned, were at their silliest, because now, by this time, everything was being examined. They were examining words to make sure they didn't have double entendre. I mean, people were going nuts. We happened to have an episode coming that was called the camping. It was just purely called the camping episode. This episode originated from a story that we read in the paper. And just a scientific fact that was completely unknown to me, for which I was, by the way, teased a lot, in that I did not know, and neither did Al, that when young women are together for extended periods of time, after a while, their cycles sync up. I had no idea of this. I'm actually sorry I still know this. But apparently this happened. And the two of the women that we had on staff, were the ones who, brought this to my attention. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be funny if? So we did an episode simply called The Camping Show, where all of them, all the Bundys, Marcy, and was it Steve at the time? Yeah, it was, because it's the early year. All rented, a cabin in the woods together, and with Kelly, Marcy and Peggy, to get back to nature, to commune with. So that's probably Marcy's idea. And while out there, the women synced up their cycles. And as sometimes happens, when that happens, become a little grouchy. So you've got these guys out in the woods, so there's no place for them to go. And they're in this cabin with three women who basically are plotting to kill them. And another thing that I actually did hear about this, is that sometimes when something like that happens, animals can sense this, and we took this element, and put this in this camping show. That now you've got, because I'm imagining, well, if one can do this to like an animal, then three of them, you've got, hey, there's bears in these woods, and so that's what we did. We had these, the animals basically keeping these guys, in the cabin, so they couldn't even go for help if they needed it. And all through, because I was so far out of my element with this show. I would defer to the ladies writing this. I'm going, now, guys, I'm not. Hey, this is on you guys, because I don't know. And they were firm in their resolve with this. They said especially women, this is not offensive. They know. Okay. Well, the network apparently, didn't know this either. They were highly concerned, about this episode, especially coming off the Rakolta thing. And they were not, they did not want to air this episode. And I'm saying, well, wait a second. I'm hearing from women, that this passes muster. And now, when it comes to between a 50-year-old male executive and two 40-year-old women writers, when the subject is menstruation, I'm kind of going to side with the ladies on this one, And they were highly upset. He said, guys, you know, I don't understand what we're protecting. If you can give me some reason why I'm protecting the women of America from the fact that, you know, that they're going to cycle, okay, I'll do that. If I have a logical reason why women need to be protected from this, I was under the assumption that most of them knew it already. But, you know, you're the research guys, you know. The conversation pretty much ended there, and they just decided we're not going to air this episode. We're never going to air this episode. That became the camping show. There is another episode, because technically there are two lost episodes. There's another episode that went by the name of the lost episode. This also came from the paper. Whereas somewhere in California, as I recall, there was a honeymoon-like hotel that couples would go renew their passion. You know, this hotel was known for because it had the heart-shaped bed, heart-shaped tub, you know, movies, all of this, that, you know, couples would go. And they found out that the proprietor of this hotel literally was filming, had cameras set up filming in every single room, and would sell and distribute these tapes, you know, into, you know, houses that sell, you know, and distribute these tapes. Well, that also was basically a perfect setup for this group of characters that we had. So, you know, we had, you know, Peggy, based on Marcy's, you know, experience up there. You know, we had Peggy drag Al up, you know, and we had, and they got filmed, and the place got busted, and, you know, Marcy wanted to institute a lawsuit, you know, and as you know, or probably guessed, that in order to go through a lawsuit, they're actually going to have to show these tapes to a jury. And that's when Al wanted to back out, and, you know, they were determined justice, you know, so they did that. And, you know, I think Marcy and Steve won their case, but, you know, Al lost because based upon what the jury saw on the tape, they could not reach a consensus that was actually technically sex. So Al lost, but they did have the enjoyment of playing, you know, his tape many, many times, because it was so short that the jury couldn't get it the first time. You know, they kept replaying. They slowed it down to slow motion, as, you know, he had to sit there. But then they had a problem with that too, and I think that's the one most people know of as the lost episode. The camping show, though people do consider that the lost episode because they didn't show that for a long time, I think this lost episode, they didn't show this for years. As a matter of fact, the first time I think it was shown overseas in syndication, and then they finally, it was before DVD, so once they started, the tapes would come in syndication. You know, they would include this episode, which was met with almost a universal, what? This was the one? Because the way they had played this, I mean, what they would have expected was, you know, was basically unairable on any network. And then when they saw just how innocent this was, you know, it was actually as funny to me as the episode itself, when people just saw, this is what really, this? Especially compared to what's on television now. You'd see this on Nickelodeon now. You know, you really would.